This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, May 22nd, 2006, and this is episode number 103 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hodgberg from MGMstudios.org. On the show today is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Welcome, Mike.
Ooh, hi. I was hoping you picked me first.
Yeah, that's kind of surprised there. Following him is Mike Scopa of MousePlanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
Well, that's a mighty tough territory you're heading into, Pilgrim. I think about turning back if I were you.
That is, if you want my advice.
I made up my mind a long time ago not to tell people what they ought to do.
And quoting John Wayne at any opportunity is Len Testa of the Unofficial Guide.
Let's go, Matt.
Outstanding.
Excellent.
And we have back for this month Mark Goldhaber of MousePlanet.com. Welcome, Mark.
Hey there.
A quick reminder that this Sunday, May 28th at 8 o'clock p.m., the return of the live show will be occurring. It's going to be at 8 o'clock on this Sunday, and it'll be live show number 2. It was wildly successful, our first live show. And be sure to tune in on Mouse World Radio. We'll have all the directions on how to listen, how to call in with your own questions at wdwtoday.com. It'll have all the instructions on there. We're looking for even a better listener response. A lot of people had called us in with some great questions, and we're looking forward to it. So next Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time will be our next live show. Well, we've got Mark on, and we're going to try a new format today. Actually, Mark's going to talk a little bit about the big story in his column, and then we're going to answer some listener emails that Mark might know the answer to because they're about openings, closures, rehabs, things that Mark would know best. But let's start off with your column, Mark, which, of course, is published every Monday at MousePlanet.com. What's the big story this week?
Well, the big story is that on Friday, Mission Space debuted the new mission profile, the non-spinning profile. Now, when guests...
What was their marketing campaign slogan for this? Might it be Mr. Goldhaber?
No spin zone!
Yeah, right. Mission Space, the O'Reilly factor.
Well, as you approach Mission Space now, the cast members will explain to you what's going on and ask you if you want to go on the green team training flight or the orange team training flight. The orange team is the normal high G version.
Well, what they should have done is made the green team yellow. Are you yellow?
That would have been good.
Well, the green team is the non-spinning version, and then there's going to be a single fast pass queue. They decided not to split that up, so they've got 3 routes through. And when you get to the merge point, then the fast pass cast member will route you into either the orange queue or the green queue.
How does that work? The interesting thing I'm interested in is if you're standing in line, there's a long wait, which would be actually a change for Mission Space, but if there was a long wait, and I could just see, I suspect more people will be riding the regular version than the no spin version. What happens, if they can't, they're not going to wait 20 minutes to fill up the no spin version, right?
Well, what they were doing from...
How would you know if it's on? Let me just ask that question. How would you know if it's on the ride?
They control it. They have certain centrifuges are dedicated to spin, certain to non-spin, and they can actually activate or change them based on crowd levels.
Okay. So is it half of the 4 centrifuges?
Yeah, I've been hearing that they were running 2 and 2 at one point. Yeah. At one point, they were running 2 and 1. It's all based on crowd load. Okay. But basically, from what I've heard, it takes a short while to switch it over from one mode to the other, and a little bit longer to make sure that everybody, all up and down through the cast members running the attraction, know that it's switched over before they actually get people onto that different centrifuge. But when you get there and they route you into orange or green, they'll hand you a launch ticket that's green or orange, and it explains the what's going on for either version that you're going to ride, and then on the back of that are notes in Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, and Japanese, telling the rider to ask a uniformed ride attendant for important safety instructions in their language, so that the problems that they were saying that the German woman who died may not have read any, or may not have understood any of the security warnings, because the only warnings were in the park guide, which she may or may not have read. Now you will have a piece of paper in your hand that tells you what is going on in your language, and you have to ask a uniformed ride attendant for the additional security information.
Great. And, of course, if you want to read more of Mark's column, that's just the first story. Mark's got a whole lot of other interesting topics in his column this week. If you'd like to check it out, go to mouseplanet.com, and there'll be a link in the show notes to Mark's column, of course. And let's start off. Mark, you ready for some questions?
Sure.
First question comes from Marcia Rivas of Orfield, Pennsylvania, who writes, does anyone know when the ESPN weekend will be for 2007? We would like to schedule a trip during that time. If you do not know the dates, or if they are not set yet, is it typically the same time every year?
Well, as far as I know, they haven't been released yet. When we do get the dates, we'll put them up in the park events section of the park update at Mouse Planet. It'll also probably show up under events at DisneyWorld.com and ESPN.com. I believe that they were about the same time the last couple of years.
Yeah,
but
Mark, they were.
There's no guarantee that it'll be the same. It probably will, but they'll never commit themselves to any consistency. But yeah, it did run about the same time each of the last 2 years, and I'd say it'll probably be that same March time frame.
Yeah, it was this past year in March 2006. It was from March 3rd through the 5th. So likely they won't be. I don't think there'll be much of a change. I mean, maybe a weekend or two, but nothing like going from March to August or something like that.
It's going to be about the same time frame. 2005 was February 25th to 27th. So it'll be late February, early March, but we don't have exact dates yet.
Great. The next email comes from Tyler of San Jose, California, who writes, hey guys, I've heard rumors flying about that Space Mountain being refurbished in 2007, much like Disneyland's version. Is there any truth to this?
Well, Tyler, I've heard the same or similar rumors. I've actually heard 2008, that it was something like a $30 million refurbishment. But that's all it is. That's all it is right now is a rumor. I have not gotten any confirmation from anybody that is in a position to know that. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it doesn't mean that it is going to happen. As if we hear something more concrete, obviously we'll go into the park update.
So what can they do for $30 million?
They could.
They could mimic.
They could probably rip out the entire track and replace it. They could, or they could do a hell of a special effects job. They could. Yeah. They could. Well, they probably have to rip out the track and replace it if they wanted to add a soundtrack like they did in California. The supports would be able to hold the additional weight in the cars.
Glenn?
I was going to say, Bob said that the Disneyland attraction's fantastic. So
it's phenomenal.
And he's heard that they're going to do the same thing in Disney World too. The crowd response in Disneyland.
Is Disneyland's version that they just rehabbed, is that the same version they have in Paris that they just rehabbed?
No, Hong Kong.
Okay, so Paris's version is totally different.
Right. What they did was, for Hong Kong, they ordered an exact duplicate of the track for Disneyland. While that was being fabricated, they discovered that the supports for the Disneyland track were falling apart because of the additional weight of the cars now that they were holding the sound system. So what they did was they said, okay, give us 2 copies of the same track. And so they got an extra copy, which is a duplicate of the existing track at Disneyland. They rebuilt the whole thing with new track, stronger footings, and then they added a bunch of new special effects. And I got to ride it last fall with one of the guys that designed the original Space Mountain attraction, George McGinnis, who had written some stories for me. It was a blast. It's a phenomenal attraction. They did a great job on it.
Great. Our next email is from Art from Vermont. Has a question. It says, I am an avid reader of Disney. I own 4 copies of the unofficial guide from various years, and I'm a regular listener to the podcast. His question, however, is one of my favorite memories of going to Walt Disney World with my parents as a child was to be in the Main Street Electrical Parade. Last I heard, the parade is on tour at one of the overseas Disney parks. Do you expect to ever see it in Orlando again? It would be the nostalgia talk. It could be the nostalgia talking, but I just don't think the current parade is quite as interesting.
Well, personally, I like Spectrum Magic and Main Street Electrical Parade about equally for different reasons and in different ways. But Florida's original Main Street Electrical Parade left for Paris when they put Spectrum Magic into place. Then the Electrical Parade in California did that whole thing where they had said it was glowing away forever, and then they went and they sent it to New York City for that Hercules Parade, and then they moved it to Walt Disney World for it was either the Millennium Celebration or the 100 Years of Magic, and it ran there for a while, and then they brought Spectrum Magic back and they sent that parade back to California. It's now running at Disney's California Adventure, where I saw it fairly recently. As far as I know, the version that went to Paris, I think, is targeted for Hong Kong. I'm drawing a blank, but I think it was headed for either Tokyo or Hong Kong. And the one that's at Disney's California Adventure isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So I would say that if you're waiting for the Main Street Electrical Parade to come back to Walt Disney World, it's going to be a very long wait.
I should apologize. That email was not from Art. It was actually from Rich from Youngstown, Len's boy.
Rich!
Rich!
Our next email is from Stephen Johnson, who writes, Guys, what is a good website to keep up with all the rehabs and closings at Walt Disney World? Mark, I think you might have a suggestion.
Well, MousePlanet.com is a good site to keep up on that. Also, if you want to check out some other sites, Zeb Wills usually has up-to-date information on refurbishments. If you want to check out a site that's got a lot of rumors as well as hard stuff, the discussion forums at www.magic.com. Though when the stuff becomes solid, then it gets listed on the front page there. Steve does a good job of trying to keep only solid information on the front page. Those are probably your lead sources. Also, I suppose the Diz boards would give you some good information. I'm sure there are other places that I'm leaving out, but obviously I'm recommending first Mouse Planet, but beyond that, there are other resources that you can check if you want.
I would say, just to add to what you said, Mark, I think if you want the raw rumors that are unfiltered, whatever, you just want to know any possible rumor out there, the WDW Magic forums are probably best. If you want something more filtered that has some likelihood to it, I highly suggest Mark's column every Monday. And then who writes the column on Monday for Disneyland, Mark?
That's combined Mouse Planet staff effort.
Okay. Our next email comes from Melissa Ray of Sleepy Hollow, New York, who writes, Hi, everyone. Just want to say I get a genuine geeky thrill from listening to your podcast, even if it's about a topic that doesn't currently concern me. There's something very comforting about it, like eating macaroni and cheese. Anyway, I heard rumblings that the little Einstein characters from the Playhouse Disney series are going to be at the MGM Park starting in May. Do you know the details? Are they going to be included in Playhouse Disney Live, making appearances in the park, or in their own event/attraction?
Well, I haven't heard anything about changes to Playhouse Disney Live show. It's possible that they may add walk-around characters in the park, but I'm not certain about that. What I do know for sure is the new Play and Dine meal at the Hollywood and Vine restaurant starts on June 25th, and June and Leo from Little Einsteins, as well as JoJo and Goliath from JoJo's Circus, are going to be appearing in the at the meal, and they won't just be going around and meeting and greeting, but they'll also be singing and dancing to songs from Playhouse Disney during the meal. It's a breakfast and a lunch. Breakfast is $22.99 for ages 10 and up, and $12.99 for ages 3 to 9. And lunch is $24.99 for adults and $13.99 for kids. Again, 10 and up versus 3 and 9. Reservations available now. And I've got a little bit about in this week's update, as a matter of fact.
I've seen, just to add to what Mark said, which is absolutely true, I have seen the Little Einstein characters. I could not for the life of me tell you what their names are. I'm sorry, I'm not that up on Little Einsteins or the Disney Channel in general. However, I did see them on Mickey Avenue near JoJo and Goliath's meet and greet. So last I heard they were on a trial basis over there, but since they're obviously going to be featured in Hollywood and Vine, I suppose that they are going to be permanent at the studios, but it's still on a trial basis for meeting them for meet and greets outside of the restaurant. The next question is from Pam Shirley, who writes, "Love your podcast. I've listened to every episode. I have a question about an old attraction at the Magic Kingdom. I was wondering if there used to be a bumper car ride in Fantasyland. This is something that I think I remember from my first trip in Walt Disney World 25 to 30 years ago. I picture the ride where the Villain Pavilion meet and greet used to be near the Pooh ride. Do you guys know if this ride existed? If so, what was it called, and when did they remove it?"
Bumper car ride?
Yeah.
My guess is she's probably thinking about the original Grand Prix Raceway, which, just like the current Tomorrowland Indy Speedway, can turn into a bumper cars-like experience depending on who's in front of you and behind you. The old, as she says, the old Villain's Greeting Pavilion, which actually was originally the entrance to the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea attraction. All that was there was the lagoon. So there was nothing there. My guess is she's probably thinking about getting bumped on the Grand Prix Raceway.
Yeah, you can check Mike Lee's website, Widen Your World, which has a list of all of the now defunct attractions in Walt Disney World.
Yesterland too, maybe?
Yeah, isn't there Walt Dated World or something like that?
Yeah, like
Yesterland concentrates on Disneyland, so it wouldn't be there.
Oh, okay.
But my guess is that looking at Grand Prix Raceway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything on the Widen Your World website about it, but yeah, my guess is it's the Grand Prix Raceway too. I mean, didn't everyone think it was bumper cars when they first saw it? You mean it's not? Like when they tell you, like, don't strike the vehicle, you're like, come on.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people said, "Oh, you could do that, couldn't you?" And then Grandma gets it right in the tail.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for us today. Mark Goldhaber, thank you for coming on with us again.
My pleasure. One before we go, I got to tell you, you guys almost killed me, literally.
Oh.
I was driving home.
So close.
Break thing worked again?
I was driving home in a rainstorm, listening to the 100th episode, and the blooper reel came on, and I almost drove off the road. I was laughing so hard. So I narrowly escaped death at your hands.
Oh, that's great to hear.
We'll have to try harder next
Stick around, we'll see what we can do.
Wait till the 200th episode.
And this has been episode number 103 of Walt Disney World Today. If you want to find older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.wdwtoday.com. You can also email us at questions@wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopo, Mike Newell, and Mark Oldhaber, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.